Parasyte the Maxim series premiere, The Metamorphosis. Definitely an interesting start to this series. I'd heard about it when it first premiered, when it actually initially first came out, and it definitely seemed really crazy, and it was definitely a crazy episode. Like, I think, of course, with it being the first episode, they didn't go, like, all out or too insane, but the literal first scene was, like, a tiny bit of dialogue, which we got the conclusion of at the end of the episode. And then, seriously, like, the first monster, which clearly succeeded in its mission compared to our main creature that attaches to our main character. I guess they're both the main character, really. And it's like the very first scene is just like, okay, this husband is holding this woman. His face grows the lines, which I think looks really cool. Like, just watching the trailers and stuff, in one way it's really cool, and then of course as soon as they open up it's super effing gross, but it's cool and gross at the same time, and I actually really like that. So it's like he's holding her, boom, she's dead, and he has like a giant contraption, like the stuff we've seen in the trailers if you've watched them, or even just when it goes to commercial and they show, like, just little clips from it. There's a lot more insane stuff, and we get a little taste of that at the end of this when another host is a dog, but it's transformed to have like gross wings and stuff, and it can, they can really morph the body, which I didn't know. I thought it was just simple stuff like they hold the form of the human, and then from that they basically branch out and do whatever. But it completely changed the structure of that dog at the end, which ultimately caused it to lose. But it shows that if something crazy is happening and there's a certain parasite that has, more of a conscience, I guess, or not conscience, but more of a I'm not sure what the right term is. Like, not really conscience, but it is, it's stronger mentally. It's stronger. I shouldn't say more of a conscience, but it's just stronger mentally, and it has more time to develop and mature. Then we can really see something insane out of the human body. Like, those are somehow, I'm considering this simple, but what we saw in this episode was simple. It was like it formed from the head and it became sort of a large pod with basically sharp teeth in it, and it just took the woman's head clean off, and whatever happened to the girl that was in the house as well. But that's simple compared to what we saw with the dog, where it completely morphed this dog. It wasn't like, oh, it spread from this or that. It morphed the dog, and I'm guessing it shifted bones from one location to another and other parts of the body as well, so that it could fly. So that was actually very interesting to see. And like I said, if we get one that matures enough, it could be like just disastrous for the main character. So I'm actually looking forward to that, which probably won't happen, until like we get later in the series. But it was pretty cool. It was fairly simple. We got the introduction of our main characters. We have our main characters, and then we have, the parents. We have the friends at school. Of course, with the hand kind of taking over in the beginning, we have a very interesting interaction with the girl with the pink hair, which was really funny, or I guess red hair. But that was really funny. I love that. And then we had the hand, like, before they did the reveal, it was like, it's obviously full control, because, like, he was falling asleep, and the hand was looking at the phone, and it was, we got to see that it was actually looking at the anatomy of the human body, which I thought was kind of cool, and it's doing all this research, and when he wakes up, it's turning into fish and stuff like that, because it's looking at all of these different things. And that's something else that was interesting, is that when it changed into the fish and stuff, it actually changed its pigmentation, so it changed into a blue fish. So it can actually change its shape and stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. And we got to see that when the first creature was changing its face, but it was very different compared to, like, oh, it turned into a fish and it was like completely blue and like a totally different color. So that was actually really cool. And they all learn. I think that's really awesome. The parasites learn to speak from the world, like from us speaking and seeing the news and things like that. And reading through books and doing research, they learn. So that was actually a really cool concept as well. And I'm just excited for this series. I'd heard about it a long time ago, of course. I pretty much only get to see my anime on Toonami because of all the other shows I review. I'm pretty much like sticking to, like my live action stuff for now until I get like way more time than I might do actual current anime. But for now, all my new anime only comes from Toonami, which means it's about a year old. But I did enjoy this. It was a pretty cool episode. It was an interesting start. I liked the opening song. That was pretty cool. The ending was funny to me because I was like, this is such, it's like such a beautiful, lovely looking ending for what I know is going to be such a disastrous and bloody anime. It was kind of weird. I was like, this is way too nice of an ending with this art style and the music, and it's just showing people walking around, and it seemed to focus on a girl who we haven't seen in this episode. So I don't know if the main character has a sister or not, but that's what it seems to be, because the door opens and the main character's there, so I'm assuming he has a younger sister that we didn't actually see in this episode, who will get introduced in episode 2. But I liked it. It was an interesting start. Um, just the way everything looks with all the stuff. Also, my hands, my fingers are black because I was using some charcoal. But like just the way the animation looks on the hand, like when it splits open and stuff like that, and the eye comes out and the mouth forms, it's cool. I think it looks really sweet. And then we got to see, like when he grabbed the signpost, and it basically grew a bunch of extra fingers to wrap around the signpost, or I guess the lamp pole. It was really cool. Like I just like the way that it looks. And my favorite one was definitely when he stopped the car, and it just looked cool because it was basically like an extremely dense skeletal version of a hand. That actually looked really sweet to me. And all the other ones just look really gross and like it all looks slimy. That's what it is. Everything looks slimy and like putty because it's just like constantly moving and changing shape, and it's not just like a rigid shape like that. It's like the eye comes out and it's just like two lines and then it's the eyeball, so everything just looks like it just wiggles around a lot, and it kind of does because it's nothing concrete or anything like that. It's just like flabby forms to like move around really fast, which makes sense except for when it's in combat situations, like when it had the little claw hands, which actually made me think a lot of the video game Prototype, because you get claws just like that in that game. They're much bigger compared to just being the size of fingers. But that's what it made me think of. But I thought those two were pretty cool, the claw ones. And when he stopped the car was definitely my favorite, because also it was pretty symmetrical as well, and I kind of have OCD about that type of stuff. So like the eye was like directly in the center of the hand, and that looked cool. And all the fingers kind of had like, they were like straight bone basically, but you could see like the pink tendons and stuff a little bit. I thought that was pretty cool. It also made me think of Attack on Titan instantly as well. It definitely made me think of that because that's just what we look like underneath. So that's just what it made me think of, because Attack on Titan is the last anime that I saw that really did that, where it shows like our tendons and the skeletal structure and stuff. So it did make me think of that when I first saw it, but that's just what we look like underneath. So it's not like it's copying or anything. It just, Attack on Titan just does it a lot more often. Well, I guess I shouldn't say more often, but it did it specifically with a character we saw a lot. But I like this first episode. I'm looking forward to the second one. I'm looking forward to seeing how crazy things get, because we saw at the end that the pod that came down on like the crazy dude who totally killed this woman, and I'm assuming was about to rape her dead body, it looked like a really big pod came down to him, and I was trying to figure out, I don't know if that was actually a big pod or if it was they just drew it and it was like it looked really big, but it was the small version that ended up landing on the satellite dish before it connected to the main character. But either way, there are obviously a bunch of them. Some of the parasites have controlled people, some have controlled animals, and we'll see how all this stuff plays out, and we'll get to learn more about the parasites as they learn about each other and themselves, which I think is actually a really cool concept. So I like the first episode. I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I want to know, of course, with this being the premiere, if this really drew you in, or did it kind of fall by the wayside to you? Were you more excited, or are you kind of iffy, but you're going to give it a shot because you saw the trailers? Or just how did this one, or did it reel you in at all? Like, how did it make you feel by the time you ended this first episode? Because I enjoyed it. I am looking forward to the other episodes more, because this one, like I said, it didn't really go nuts or anything. It was actually also a lot funnier than I thought. I wasn't expecting this to have like any comedy really, like very minor, but it was actually funny most of the episode, which was pretty interesting. I was like, oh, that really surprised me. I thought for sure this was gonna just be like drama and death the whole time. So I actually like the fact that it was pretty silly and lighthearted. Most of this first episode that could easily change after the parasites have grown and taken over a lot more humans within the city. But for now, it's fairly funny. So that was a nice little surprise as well. But like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.